In this video, we are going to talk about where the NASDAQ may be headed for the week of ending on Friday, April 18th, guys. It is April 13th, 2025, and it is our trades back here with another video. We're going to be analyzing the micro NASDAQ. We might have a look at the ES as well as gold and oil futures. We're going to talk about some of our key levels, some things to look out for the next week, as well as our up and coming economic calendar. Before we get into it, guys, a quick disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. You need to contact and consult with a licensed financial advisor if you're looking for that sort of thing. Trading involves substantial risk of loss, including loss of your initial capital, as well as any other capital you put into the markets, guys. Simulated trading is different from real live market trading in many ways, including liquidity, fills, slippage, that sort of thing. So simulated results may not be the same as live market results. Guys, I am an affiliate for a company called Apex Trader Funding. If you want to try out Apex Trader Funding, it is a prop firm. Please make sure to enter code RTRADES. That's code RTRADES, all one word, at checkout before your next purchase. And I will get a small commission on that, guys. I appreciate it. Okay, guys, so we are here on the daily chart of the micro NASDAQ, and we are about to open up on Monday, April the 14th. We're first going to have a look at the economic calendar to see what sort of economic events we have next week. Now, guys, I think as many of you know, the main story of the month, the main story of the past few weeks has all been tariffs, and those are not necessarily going to be reflected on economic calendar. So just be aware that this market is highly subject to whatever the president says and whatever tariff policy is going on. So you could continue to see volatility based on tariff discussions. With that being said, let's open up our economic calendar and see what our week looks like for next week. All right, guys, we have retail sales on Wednesday. No major economic releases on Monday. No major economic releases on Tuesday. We have retail sales on Wednesday, building permits on Thursday, and housing starts on Thursday. No economic releases on Friday. So in terms of our economic releases, it's a pretty light week. No CPI, no PPI, no FOMC. With that being said, guys, keep an eye on whatever talk about tariffs is going on. Okay, guys, with that in mind, let's head over to the technicals and look at the daily chart. I think that pretty much the consensus coming into Sunday's trading, which starts in 2 hours and 15 minutes from the recording of this video, pretty much the consensus is that the market is going to gap up higher coming into Sunday's trading. We did have a green inside bar candle on Friday. With that being said, guys, my bias is still towards the downside as the market continues to be in a daily downtrend. Now, we did reach a market low on last Monday. That low came in at 16,452 halves on the micro NASDAQ, and would have a similar level on the ES. And the market has generally been trading higher. So let's take a look from trough to current market price, where that takes us. So the market is currently trading about 15 or 14.38% or 2,366 handles higher from our trough to current market price. Our latest swing, guys, from trough to peak, our latest swing, that is from low to high of our latest swing, took us 2,935 and halves, or 2,935.5 handles, or 17.84%. Okay, guys, so we had a pretty decent move higher. Some important levels of resistance. Let's talk about if the market wants to move back and trend to the upside. Let's talk about our important levels of resistance to the upside. I'm seeing 3 important levels of resistance to the upside immediately. Our first one's going to be 19,384 halves. If we break and close above that, I would expect the price to continue higher and move to 20,045 quarters. Right, that's our next level of resistance. If we break above that, I would look for 20,536 evens. That's our next level of resistance. So again, assuming that we break that first level of resistance, I think we're going to travel to our next level of resistance. Assuming a break there and we get into an uptrend, our next level of resistance. If the market truly goes into a new bull phase and we're looking at a trend that's going to take us a lot higher on the daily chart, and I would look for us to go just make new all-time highs, frankly, because I see that we had a lot of clean downward movement. And using the mirror principle, I would expect us to go all the way up to new all-time highs if we break above 20,536. That's our third level of resistance. Now, what am I predicting for this week? I'm predicting probably that we open up on Sunday and Monday with a green candle. But as a trend following trader, one thing I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to assume that the market's going to continue in the direction of travel until it proves me wrong. Okay. So I now want to talk about what are some of our downside targets. All right. Our first and our most obvious level of support, if we were to turn back downward, is our most recent low of 16,452 halves. All right, that is a very important low. Why? Because it was a significant low after a move from peak to trough that took us down substantially with a lot of economic news and a lot of factors that went into that. If we move lower than 16,452, from a daily perspective, our move from peak to trough, using a standard deviation projection, the first move that I would look at, let's see if I can get this to work. All right. A half standard deviation would take us down to 14,656 quarters. A full standard deviation would take us down to 12,859 3/4. Now that would be pretty much an economic collapse, stock market crash at that point. Do I think that our low has been brought in for now on Monday? I don't think that that's our low for 2025. I think any number of things could happen that could bring, especially the tech sector, down further. Do I think that that this is the low for this week? Do I think that this week's trading comes and breaks 16,452? I'm going to be honest, unless there's some sort of tariff news or major economic scare, I think that that low is probably going to be our low for this week, considering that we don't have a lot on the economic calendar. What I'm sort of expecting is a trading range coming into this week. Probably not a huge range of price unless we see some sort of tariff announcement come out that affects the market. Otherwise, guys, I don't think that the market this week, just looking at it, is going to come and take out that low 16,452 halves. That's not what I foresee happening. All right, guys. With that in mind, what is my prediction coming into Sunday and Monday's trading? I think we gap higher when the futures open, and then I think we probably have a green overnight session and a green day coming into Monday. I think that the market is likely to break this first level of resistance at 19,388 and take us up to our next level of resistance above 20,000. So, guys, I do think that the NASDAQ gets above 20,000 this week. That's kind of my guess. If not, though, again, we are still on a daily trend downwards, and don't be surprised if that trend continues. If the daily trend down continues, do I think that we break that 16,452 halves? No, I don't, unless there's some sort of change in tariff policy that I'm not currently aware of. Okay, guys, let's look at some of our other markets. Looking at the ES futures, it's basically the same story that I gave you on the NASDAQ, except the levels are a little bit different. Our major low on the S&P 500 or ES futures that was made last week is at 4,835 handles. And then our closest high is at 5,529 3/4. That might be a little bit different in the full size contract. I do think that we break that first level of resistance on the ES and move up to 5,773 3/4, which is our next level of resistance. All right, that's what I'm expecting to happen. Let's take a look at crude oil. Crude oil had a pretty sharp drop last week. With our trend has generally been lower on energy prices. Our first level of support, assuming that crude oil wants to move down further, on the daily chart, our first level support is that low that we made on Wednesday. That's at 55.12. Again, that's at 55.12. Do I see crude oil reversing and trading higher? It's pretty hard for me to call that. The market really took a dive below some major support levels last week. If we have something of a relief week, I could see that happening. All right. So with that being said, a lot of this video I'm going to need to check because I think the camera was still, but that's fine. Gold continues to be on a rip, guys. I'd be very careful shorting gold. If a standard deviation of our last move plays out, a half standard deviation would take us up to 33.17 spot 2. Full standard deviation would take us up to 34.32 spot 8 of our last move from trough to peak. If we're going to see some sort of a relief week, we could see a move back down that would take us back into about 3160, I think, or the halfway point of this buy side imbalance, sell side inefficiency. All right, guys, this has been our trades back here with another video. I want to thank you for joining me. I think that we're likely to see a relief week this week with a light economic news, probably a smaller trading range on the stock market indexes. I would be biased towards the long side on the stock market indices. I'd be biased towards the short side on crude oil, biased towards the long side on gold until anything sort of changes on gold. US dollar. Let's take a look at the US dollar. US dollar has been plunging. We plunged below our level of support at 100 spot 169. I think we probably see a relief week this week, meaning I think it probably trades higher this week, but the overall trend remains down. So I'd be cautious taking longs on the dollar, especially holding them overnight. But do I think that we see something of a relief week on the dollar or move counter trend higher after we broke some major long-term support? I do, guys. So I think that generally speaking, we're going to see a rally in the dollar, a rally in stocks, probably a rally in crude oil, and maybe a little bit of a pullback in gold. That's what I'm thinking this week as we head into sort of a light economic news week. Okay, guys, this has been our trades back here with another video. I want to thank you for joining me. We'll see you on the next one.